Hey, this is Raphael with another constructive conversation. Today we're here with no other than Mr. Tony Brown. How we doing, brother?
How you doing, King?
All right, we're doing good. So I
Definitely.
appreciate you stopping by, and like always, we'll jump right into it. So I see you're a veteran,
Yep, definitely.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
philanthropist, and filmmaker.
Yep,
So there should be a
definitely.
lot of synergies here in this conversation.
Definitely, brother, definitely.
Awesome.
And it's an honor to be here. I heard so much about you and all the stuff you do for the community, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you coming by and stopping by and sharing some insight. We always try to network and talk with different people from different backgrounds. And even though we're in the construction space, I find out that it's really the same.
Yep.
Business is business. Everybody's looking for quality services and looking how they can provide value, and just interested to learn more about your life story and your walk in the entrepreneurship world and veteran world, philanthropist, and even in the filmmaking. So, kind of tell us
Definitely.
about all of that.
First of all, too, people don't understand in construction, you are a healer.
Mm,
They don't even look at it that way. You're a therapist because when you give somebody their first home,
mhm.
you done change that whole trajectory of that family.
Yep.
So we have to honor the construction workers, the plumbers, electricians, and I want to do that here first and give you your flowers while we're here.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, I tell people all the time once we, start talking and start talking about the construction space overall, I'm like, I didn't realize when I started out that you think it's construction, masonry, brickwork,
Mm.
managing the different trades, the problem solving, but it's so much more. Like you said, I didn't realize I was going to have to become a marriage counselor. I didn't realize I was going to have to become a forensic scientist at times to figure out what caused this problem when there's no apparent reason. And there's just so many different hats that we have to wear. But we could sit around, and we have done it in the past. We sit around and complain about man, I didn't sign up for this. But as I look back on it, it's the biggest blessing that there is, because I tell anybody when we start talking about the roles that we play is that, at least in my mind, what we do with custom homes specifically, it's one of the most complicated things that you can try to do, and try to do it at a high level, because the more you do, the bigger the challenge gets. So you imagine just one
Mhm.
client, say if it's building for you and your spouse, and that's totally different from if I go try to build for Mark and his spouse. And
Yep.
you cannot treat two things totally the same, even though it's they're custom homes, and you can't really take your experience for granted. Normally, in most industries, you can say, "Well, I've done this, and from past experience taught me this," but you don't have the luxury of saying that, because it's every time you start new, it's brand new.
Mm.
And so, it's one of the best teachers, and it's helped me to kind of mold me into the type of leader that, as we're growing into different things, I told the government contracting officer recently, they were like, well, hey, how can you take on this project? Something that's kind of unique. We haven't done it before. How can you be so confident in being able to accomplish this goal, being that based on your track record, I haven't seen that you've done X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
And but the years and experience in custom homes, I said, well, our background is in custom homes. However, the thing that we're really great at is in custom homes. There's never a duplicatable project, meaning like if I build for you and I build for someone else, it's two totally different things with totally separate problems. I said, we just happen to have a skill set that's very refined to where I can do things I've never done before, but by the time I'm done, it looks like I've done it 100 times.
Yeah.
I said, that's what custom home building is, and that's what people expect. So, I tell people also, I'm like, it's one of the most difficult things there is to master. I think the only thing maybe is more difficult than that is maybe brain surgery. People laugh when I tell them that, but you think about it. Even when you're at batting 90% or 95%, or even sometimes you can knock it out of the park and get 100%.
Mm.
Write down your vision, your goals, the make, model numbers, and sometimes even with all that, we can still miss the mark, because even though it's right, it's wrong because it didn't meet the expectation. We got the actual make and model number right, but when the client sometimes maybe sees something, it doesn't quite match that vision they've had in their head. And that's something that's took me a long time to get over, because I'm driven by, pleasing folks and making sure we get all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted. And, it's just something that's a complete struggle at times, because it's like being a perfectionist, you want to get all that right.
Yeah.
But, that industry served us well. It's helped us expand into government contracting, commercial development. And, yeah, so Talk to me about your journey, with entrepreneurship.
Yeah, my journey is it's a long road, but it's a healthy one because you learn as you go along. I started here in 2015. Same thing, building homes. The first home is called the Peterson Kill Home because I always wanted to name each home after a fallen soldier.
Oh, okay.
And I think Carl Pringle, he came to me with a safe space,
Hmm.
and that's one of the properties that I gave him for the safe space that he needed in Bonnie Doon because that area is
Nice.
kind of rough.
Yeah.
So we still have to finish up building that.
Hmm.
But along my entrepreneurship, I started getting into branding and consulting for companies and taking companies to a whole nother level image wise. Also, I started into filming. And the reason why I got into filming because I was in the community because you start off as construction and just start
Yeah.
spiraling.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, I wanted to actually teach the kids how to shoot a movie instead of a gun,
Mm.
because a lot of them didn't understand that their vision can be differently told other than sports.
Yeah.
Everybody want to get out the hood with sports and stuff like that. So I was like, let's lose the left side of your brain. Let's do creativity.
Yeah.
So if you can write music, you could do a score.
Hmm.
It's just teaching them the verbiage is different.
Hmm.
Same thing with construction. I feel like the construction industry should go into the community and get those teenagers, those troubled youth in those teenagers communities and have them work underneath them for like a week, a co-op type thing. Cause that's what
Right.
we have in New York, like work a week and go to school a week and get them in trades early
Yeah.
because our school system, not saying it's failing us, our school system doesn't have that anymore. And I feel like once we have that construction community come together with the city council and stuff like that and get some incentives going for these
Yep.
construction industry,
Hmm.
that these young men could get into the trades at an earlier age, and women too, for that retrospect. But it'll cut down crime tremendously as well. That's why I said that you're a healer, you're an uncle or a big brother,
Hmm.
because you could
Yep.
grab any kid. And what's good about the construction industry, there's no racism when you're teaching somebody,
Amen.
picking up a hammer. So
Yep.
that's why, I'm here and I just wanted to give you your flowers with that.
Man, listen, I totally relate to everything you say, and we say the same thing as far as where the construction industry is at and how, you know, it's easy for, in my opinion, minorities to thrive in the construction space. Like you say, it's a space where not many people's entering into it, but you can enter into it and just with a little bit of passion, a little bit of drive, not a whole lot, just a little bit, you can stand out quickly in any trade if it's plumbing, electrical, heating, and air. And so I think over the course of the next 2 years, 5 years, definitely probably by 10 years, that yeah, with the young people, if they can kind of have a little bit of vision or have someone like yourself or me, out here, making content that hopefully resonates with them and say, hey, you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to, pick up the gun. You don't have to do this. You can go over here and learn this skilled trade, find you a mentor, find someone to allow you to work with them. And the fact that there's not a whole lot of people entering into the industry. I read something, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. There's a study that said for every 12 people that's leaving the construction industry, only 2 people's entering. But the 2 people that's entering is brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the next few years, what's that going to look like? The people that are retiring and leaving the space, that well driller, that surveyor, that brick mason that has those 30, 40 years of experience, where's it going? It's dying with these folks. And so if we're not careful, we're going to be in a space that's going to be, we're worrying about all this other stuff. This is going to creep up on us in a way to where we're not expected. We're always so used to picking up our phones and doing a Google search when our HVAC's out and calling someone and they're out the day or the next day after. If we're not careful and the youth don't come in and like really start taking advantage of this or this problem doesn't get solved, we're going to be facing a serious epidemic, pandemic, whatever we want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
You won't even be able to pay the rate to get someone out. And,
Yep.
it's like you're needing that electrician, you're needing that plumber, so it's just going to be a situation where maybe technology evolves to kind of fill that gap, but I don't think nothing's going to take the place of human capital. And I'd love to see, us minorities primarily, to fill this space.
Definitely.
However, I think society as a whole needs to kind of change its perspective on the skilled trades. You know what I mean? Because there's money in the skilled trades now.
A lot of it.
There's a lot of money. We were going through some numbers. What was it? Just the other day, on a project that we're doing, and I am just blown away by it. I know where the industry has been, and I know COVID's happened, inflation, and prices. even though they, may have settled down, price is still going up.
Yep.
And people they're not really got their thumb on that. We're getting still letters of increases, and where the material suppliers aren't able to necessarily justify it right now because, there's been no shutdowns. Everything's kind of got back on point. But what people is not tracking is the subcontractors, the trade vendors that are good at what they do. And I ain't even going to say great. They just got to be good. If they're good at what they do, they're booked out for months. And guess what that does? When we call them and we're trying to book out projects and we've learned you're better off waiting on the Tony that does quality work, but he's out, 2 or 3 weeks. You're better off waiting on him versus going to go try someone new that is ready, available. He can start tomorrow, but he's not proven. Yeah. And oftentimes he's cheaper. And experience has taught me that you're going to pay triple when you go with that guy, and the headaches that comes with it. Yeah. So, a lot of people, that's what they're running into now when you hear the horror stories about contractors, and they're just trying to solve a problem, but they're not realizing that they're thinking they're solving that problem, but they're creating a bigger problem. And so you got the folks who are good at what they do. Then you got the folks that are really great at what they do. The good folks and the great folks have figured it out that, you know what, you're going to have to pay a higher price. And when you go to compare it to, well, I know that I should be able to get this job done for X amount of dollars, and it's costing me double. Well, guess what I have to do when I pass it on? The consumer has to end up paying for it.
Yep.
But at some point in time, where's the limit to that? So we're at an interesting space in the construction industry where the prices like that are steady going up. Skilled trades are doing this. Yes. Demand is higher. So, I'm just very interested and eager to see how this plays out over the course of the next few years. I'd love to see the youth flood the market, but I think what's going to have to happen, you mentioned filmmaking, we're doing social media, podcasts. Even though I'm not that guy, I'm starting to feel an obligation to reach the youth in a way in which they communicate. Yeah. You got the flashy cars. You got a certain lifestyle that appeals, that attracts the youth. Now, I know some contractors, I follow some on Instagram, and, they're driving the G-Wagons and all that kinds of stuff. But, it's like I think the industry has to specifically show that side of things because that's what we're all working for. Most of us are working to build our dream home for our families, provide for our families. And I think the construction workers of the current and past, we've never lived that lifestyle to where we're flashy. Even if you make the millions or whatnot, it's just hardworking, F-150. You're driving a nice dually or whatnot. Yeah. You build your nice house, but you don't really show what's possible. And I think that if the construction industry as a whole would kind of shift that mindset and show, well, yeah, you can make, you can become a millionaire at this thing. Show contractors that started in 2 years' time, they started from nothing. Now they've got a house paid for. They've got, but during the day they're having to get dirty.
Yeah.
But at night and the weekends they fly, So I don't know. That's just something I'm thinking it needs to happen. But even with some, you're talking about filmmaking, maybe that's an idea to show what their journey looks like.
Yeah, and that's what the partnership comes in at with not just the youth, but with those, because constructions was taught by fathers back in the days. Mm-hmm. You knew since you was young, your father's a mechanic, you work with a car in there and stuff like that. So. Yep. If we could get back to that, the community, teaching the community, that will be better than focusing on the school, because when you teach a child, you build a synergy, because education is spiritual too. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes you get in a classroom setting, the child rebels. You know what I'm saying? Because there's just so much he feel like it's a competition. Mm-hmm. But if you give him in like a mechanical setting or outside setting, he excels. You see what I'm saying? Right. So it's just more of us, which is up here, come together with the youth and be like, okay, we'll come on this program probably once a month, or we'll do an 8-week program that will give us an incentive for our companies, and just talking to the city council and the mayors. And we could take things to a whole nother level at that point, because they seeing us meeting them halfway at that point. So
yeah, and that's something that, we're a small company, but as we grow, that's one of my goals, is to take, folks that I found it's pretty odd actually, that I can take someone who doesn't have any construction experience, but someone who's hungry, who's passionate, who wants that opportunity, and who can get it. They got to want it, they got to be able to get it and comprehend it. But you can do so much more with someone like that than I can hiring, say, someone who's been in the industry 15 years or 20 years
Yeah, they'll
and
never
bringing them
forget the
in is
bad
like, you
stuff.
can't tell those jokers nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they, you can't, they know more than you know. So for me, it's like you're better off if you can, starting with someone with a blank slate, showing them the processes we follow. And also, too, I've learned that you get so much more when you take the time to explain something, explain the why behind what you're telling them to do, and why it needs to be done that way.
Yeah.
And I've struggled for years, kind of building a team until I started realizing that, hey, you got to stop, slow down, explain the why. Just like when you're talking with clients and you're quote unquote going through the sales process of educating them on building a home or commercial development. You got to understand the why the foundation is done this way versus that way, and get them people to the point where they say to themselves, "Oh yeah, well that makes sense." And so I've learned that leading in that type of way, it helps foster a better relationship. And I like the way you put that. I got my daughter working in the business. It's been one of my goals. My wife works with me. It's a family owned
Yeah.
business.
How it's
And
supposed
that's
to be.
one of my legacies is to be able to hopefully leave something that they can carry on once I'm gone. And the thing is, like the struggle is, well, how do you take that and scale that out? And so one of the things I've been talking with Mark about, and here internally is we've got our whole process laid out. So everything's documented from the time someone goes to does the research and their first interaction with us. We do an orientation online. We've got to refine that a bit too, where we get to know them before we meet them. And we take that same approach to where every step along the way is documented. We're developing a software now. It's in the works to where it lays out everything, but also where at each step we will be recording a video explainer as if we're training
Gotcha.
someone. So when even the part about going to get building permits, you're in construction,
Yeah.
you know that like the back of our hands, but someone new that's never done it, that's a tremendous task. So the idea is with the software that we're developing, you've got the different steps in that process, but it also has a video play icon to where they can play that. And actually, I'm walking them through
Yeah.
that process of zoning or health
Yeah.
department permits.
And that's where I teach. You see my business card. On the other side of that, I teach the dark side of success. And when I teach the dark side of success, the way you step in the zoning and everything, I teach how to build a relationship with the zoning. So it's good to have the steps. That's the hardware. But we need to teach them the software part.
Yeah.
What's that person's name? That zoning person's name.
Yeah.
What's that whole department? So you got to study their whole department and email them. Say, hey, listen, just email you saying have a nice day. Send them something, just a gift of thanking them for doing such a wonderful job. Just
Yep.
highlight them in different ways and mannerisms. So now when you put that paperwork in, you got to them on a first name basis.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have to teach that side also, not just the hey, let's put this file in at this area. So
It's
like
interesting you say that because it kind of relates back to what I've come to a realization is that I use the analogy of like a brick mason or even a chef. It doesn't matter construction or any industry. That chef or that brick mason oftentimes will think that because they're the best brick mason, you know what I mean? They're the best chef at what they do. That's it. That's good enough. And what I found out, that's the
ain't.
furthest thing from the truth.
It ain't.
And that's what's so hard for a lot of people that's in the skilled trades or get really good at one facet of something, is that's just the beginning. And I tell people, like with what we do, building a great home or building a great structure, you're expected to do that. That's nothing special. What's special is the fact of like what you're saying. How well are you able to connect with someone in 2 to 5 minutes to where you've made them smile, they like you. And so much of our success is getting people to like you. You can do the best job ever. And, if you can't connect with people and get them to like you, you're going to struggle. And it took me a lot of years to realize that. I thought starting out that, man, all I got to do is be the best at the finishing. My houses look the best, my properties, da-da-da. And you know what? You can do all of that, and you miss that 5% out of that 95%, and people's going to remember the 5% way before they're going to remember the 95% of all the effort you've done. And so you're very right about that as far as teaching folks, how to connect with people, how to remember their names, how to notice the little intricate things about them, and even remember them. I know one of the things I'm working on, that's on my priority list, is being more thoughtful
Yep.
when you're interacting with people. clients, vendors, subcontractors, because at the end of the day, you want them people to like you too,
Yep.
because we're all relying on them. We're all relying on each other. So that's something that I do believe is very important, and I'd love to talk with you some more to kind of figure out what all that looks like at different stages of the software that we're building.
Yeah.
As far as you've got the zoning stage, you got the permit stage, you got the client interfacing stage, and all the countless parts you go through the construction process. So,
Yeah.
with your experience, what did you find to be the most challenging, as a builder when your years of building?
Um, I figured, to be perfectly honest, more of classism than anything. Being part of the building industry,
When you say that, what do you mean specifically?
not being, not I can't say kissing the ring, but not doing my due diligence on the homeowners association and different things like that, and taking the steps to knowing the community, which I just been telling you. That's why I came up with the dark side of success. Is like, hey, there's a dark side that we have to understand that exists, and we got to check our boxes. Not to go too deep into it because we know, but we can talk behind the scenes with that.
For how that looks for me, because again, I've struggled in that area.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't want to say too much. What I'm saying, to start a fire, but it's just
I get it because
it is.
I had to come to the same realization, and it is what it is. That's the
Yep.
thing about
It
with
is what it
us minorities, and it can go to one way or the other. But the facts remain is that there's laws to everything. There's laws to business. You got to network. You got to go meet the people that can open up certain doors, and we can put a label and call that for what it is. And either if you do or you don't, there's consequences for both sides of the action. So for me, I'm not that guy in reality. I'm starting to become that guy. I'm working towards becoming that guy. But what I did is I found a guy that I know, like, and trust, is a past client of mine, one of my first clients, and the dude is a natural networker. He don't meet a stranger. So I'm like, you know what? You love doing that, man. And that's what he does. He goes out and he meets the folks, and there's not many that can do it better than him, Mr. Troy, Window Troy. He was my second client, and built his home. We built an awesome relationship, and now all he does is handle the business development side of things. But like this week, he's been out. He's sending pictures, meeting with this person, meeting with the mayor. He's in his element.
Yep.
And so, but every company at certain points in times, if you're a solo entrepreneur, that's a hat you have to wear.
Yep.
Until you can find someone to do it better. And when we go to these networking events, like we're going to Tennessee or somewhere, with the government stuff, we're doing quite a bit of that. So we try to be involved as much as possible. And what I found out is that I've been in the 8A program for going on 5 years.
Oh, that's good.
And you're 100% right. I was getting no traction, man. Because I wasn't doing the networking events. I wasn't putting my face and our company name out in that space. And and then I want to sit back and complain. Well, but reality is, it's like, no, you're not doing part of the. You're not putting that piece of the puzzle in. But 2 years in, we've been putting a valid effort in every year, going to all these events. Now we know, people at the core, Savannah, Charleston.
There we go.
Got them on speed dial, and the folks out at Fort Liberty now, and it's good to be great at what you do, but the people got to know who you are and that you are great at what you do, and then foster enough relationship to where they're willing to put you in the game. And when they put you in the game, you better make them look good.
Yep.
Now, we could call that what we want to, and sometimes it is exactly that. And it's like,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And that's the craziest thing about it. But what I found is that at the end of the day, how I have to look at it when I'm in those environments, because a lot of times I'm in those networking environments. If I stick to my natural tendencies, I'm off to myself. You know what I mean? I don't. I might see you there. I might not even go up to you to approach you, shake your hand, and introduce myself. But I've had to learn, no, we're here. I tell you, the thing that helped me was when I'm in those environments, I'll say, we're here just networking. We're here. Everybody's here trying to help one another. It's it ain't the fact that I don't know anybody there. It's like going up and introducing yourself.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do? Kind of like what we're doing now, but on a bigger scale. But it can be intimidating.
Yeah. The way I do it, like what I teach people and I brand and stuff is like, hey, I got an acronym called MIS, MIIS. When I go to anybody, it's about, I tell them like, hey, listen, I heard what you're saying, but I can make you money, impact, impress, or save you money. You got to give 3 out
Yeah,
of the
go
4.
do that one more time, slow. Good.
It's miss. So usually somebody say miss me with the ball or whatever, miss me, whatever. So we got to make them money, impact, impress, save them money.
Gotcha.
You know, so even when I walk in, I could do that in 15, 20 seconds when I analyze something. So when we talk off air, I can show you examples and everything. But when you go into that, what did I say about me? I didn't say anything. But I said a lot about assisting. I care about what your needs are, and it's all about how much we can build a relationship lucratively, or I would say impact your branding. You see what I'm saying? So when you start doing that into different realms, people look at you different as an asset, not a liability. Because even if you're not talking money, I can't offer like a city council person money. What I can do is build a part of their community to make them look good, lower crime, so now they get reelected.
Yeah.
So you got to know the strategies of the dark side of success too.
You know what? And I'm there with you 100%. We've got a project. I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't I get into developing, like the tract homes and things of that nature. And for me, and I tell people, it's like, I don't see an angle for me to be any different
I got
doing
you.
that.
I got you.
I
on
don't
that,
see any
brother.
angle on me, so I cannot go in there from what I know now and do it any better than the guys that are already doing it. Plus, our whole strategy has been about building a brand that's about quality, custom, and I've got a couple of realtor friends that's always even brought me land deals. Here's 30 acres, 75 acres. They're willing to deed it to you for free, and you can use it for collateral and go do this development. I've been tempted, but I've always listened to my gut instincts. Like, nah, I don't. I don't know how I'm gonna bring value. But here recently, we've looked at a floor plan, and I liked it. It was actually a boathouse that we walked. I've got a video on TikTok, and I walked that, and I was like, man, this is really neat. And so one of the real estate friends I know, of course, had land. He already told me before, anytime you want to do something, I've got land. I'll basically deed the land over to you for the construction loan. But I remember that floor plan. It's a 1,200 to 1,600 square foot floor plan. But when you walk into it, I was blown away. And I'm like, I could see myself doing something like that. I could do a development like that. One, it's different.
Yeah.
Nobody else is doing it. We're actually making another niche that's not in the market right now because everybody's about 300-ish, 280 to 320 price point from what I can tell.
It's wild out there.
And it's like, even now a lot of people aren't going to be able to get in that bracket.
That's your military, because that's what they're building for.
Right.
BAH.
Yeah. And it's like with this floor plan I'm talking about and the development we're looking at, it'd be 200, 220-ish. And, as a builder, we still make a good profit. And actually, on the margins, we'll make probably close to the same when all the dust settles. But the price point's lower. And we went and talked with the city mayor and talked with them. And surprisingly, they're all aboard. They're all on board with it.
They got the funding.
Yeah, and that's what they already told. They've got a certain pot of money that they've been trying to find use for, and they've been trying to serve this other bracket of employees for the city and stuff like that. And it is amazing though once you start looking at that dark side of what a lot of us may look at it. It's eventually once you start getting comfortable with that and accepting the fact that, there's different levels at certain times where I've had to work on the business, didn't work in the business. Now I'm working kind of like around the business. That's really one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
And what has been your secret? I see you're that guy. Like with me, I'm for the longest part, I've put someone else in that position, but I have found that you need to be that guy. If you're the owner of the business, you're that brand, at certain times, you have to show up. You have to kind of stand up for your company and what you guys are about. What input would you give on that?
All right. Communication is the key, right? Everybody say it, but they don't understand comprehension is the lock.
Say that one more time.
Communication is the key, but comprehension is the lock.
Amen.
The way you comprehend may be different from the way he comprehend and he comprehend. So what I do is learn your comprehension language first.
How do you do that?
By just discussing, having conversations, and a lot of things, people will tell you who they are, and then you'll see what they really want, and then you take that and apply it to your strategy of success. So when you have that acronym, MIIS, whatever they want, you apply it to that, and then you execute. So once I learned how to comprehend, and the reality is on the dark side, sometimes they don't want to you can have the perfect answer, but they want to comprehend with somebody else. So I have to get a proxy or a person that speaks their language or from their culture
Yeah.
to comprehend with them
Yep.
what we're saying, to have the conversation.
Now, do you ever take any offense to that?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not
It's
at all.
business, right?
Because the UN does it.
Right.
When I was in Afghanistan, I was certain third group and stuff like that, we had translators.
Mm-hmm.
We had guys who could speak the language, but we still
You
had
know,
translators.
I see that being something. I'm speaking from my community.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking about it, is like the Lumbee people.
Yeah.
Some of the best and brightest people you'll find in the skilled trades.
Yep.
Brick masons, drywall. Shout out to all my Lumbee people, but y'all know what I'm saying is true. To get them to understand some of this stuff, you know what I mean? It's basically professionalism and being able to see things from a different lens. Like sometimes stuff can come off as offensive if you want to look at it if you choose to look at it a certain way. But if we'll choose to say, well, hey, like it's an interpretation. You can speak to your community different than what I would be able to speak to them. But I think, in my community, one of the things and one of the major challenges is if I'm working with drywall, brick masons and stuff like that, our folks, we got some aggressive folks.
Yeah.
They're aggressive. And, I mean, I can tell stories for days where we're on a job site and, fighting.
Yeah, that's how it was in New York City.
You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, and
you
you go out there. I remember one case in point. I got a phone call. My homeowners live right up the street. And one of my best clients, by the way. Job went awesome except for that incident. And we was doing drywall. Got a call. Hey, I need you out here now. We got a problem. I'm like, man, we're doing
That's never
drywall.
good.
How we got a problem? Yeah, somebody's pulled a pistol out on such and such, pulled a pistol out, and the other guy, he's got one of those drywall hatchets, and you about to have a mess out here. I knew the crew, and I'm going out there, and I get to the job site, and I'm like, what could be so wrong to where we're resorting to pulling a pistol? And I'm like, guys, y'all got to calm down, man. What's going on? And so I talked to him. I'm like, hey, tell me, what's the problem? Well, man, we bought this drywall mud. We bought like 5 buckets out here, and now there's only 3, and someone stole my bucket of drywall mud. I'm like, guys, are we literally so that's the issue, right? Well, yeah. But it wasn't the fact of just the bugs, it was the principle. They got offended, you know what I mean? And they were escalating that to the point to where somebody's life could be taken over a bucket of drywall. I'm like, guys, listen, how much is that? We ain't about the monster. I understand, I said, but listen, I'm gonna make it right, because ultimately this is my job site. You know what I mean? It's a reflection of me, and I just want you guys to chill out and cool off. So tell you what, just come to the office, tell me how much it is. I'll stroke you, check that. You know what I mean? But you're dealing with stuff like that when you shouldn't necessarily have to deal with that. So if there's one thing I wish my people would understand is more along those logics is we can be great at what we do and be among the best at the trade. But if we lack that other stuff, people ain't going to want to work with us.
Yep.
No matter what your race is.
Yep.
And that's where I think, sometimes we can get that wrong is, it's like, well, no, it ain't about that. It's about the fact of, you do a great job, but man, I got to worry about if there's going to be a murder on my job site when you're working with certain folks.
So that's the problem with a lot of, I'll say CEOs, not saying with you or anything, is accountability on unity. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes a lot of your clients and your workers, they bring in problems from home, or they bring problems from the missus or just the environment in general. And a simple, are you doing good, or coming by with some coffee, or coming by and just not checking on the job site, checking on their mentality and well-being, or calling them when they get home saying like, hey, did you get home safe? Then when they get to certain job sites, something happen, they don't want to embarrass you at that point, because you built that relationship and that rapport with them, and I always tell people, you'd be surprised how just a check 7 o'clock at night and just be like, yo, just checking up on you to say how you doing will stop somebody from blowing their head off.
Yeah.
Or coming to the work the next day to blow somebody else's head off. Because what I'm hearing is that it was principle from something else.
It was something else.
You see what I mean? And sometimes it's the 9-year-old dumb that's hurt that happened to when they was in school and they got bullied.
Yep.
You see? So we got to take a lot of things in this perspective, because in the construction industry, not saying bad or good, it's a lot of felons, a lot of people with mental issues and anger issues that we deal with in this world.
Yeah.
And I know checking on them and just being that that brother there, not a scolder or not a boss or not a, I would say, I'd be more of a leader,
Yeah.
and they perform 10
Yeah.
times better.
And you know what? And that's 100% true, because even like in that situation when I went out there, it's almost everybody knows me, like, you know what I mean. So when I go out there, sometimes it's like I've been told, we know you don't even come across as if you're like the owner of the business. We didn't know you. You don't present yourself that way. So I try to do that level of connecting with the crew too as well. As far as just like you said, it goes a long ways when you just say, "Hey man, how you doing? Yeah, how's everything? Everything good? How about it? Is that good? You need help with anything?
Yeah.
Nah, man, we're good. We're good. All right, well, cool. I mean, and that carries you, a long way. And that's what I'm finding to be most interesting about at least where I'm at right now in business, is that I'm finding myself, and you probably see the same thing, to where you get to a certain point, and you're more of, I think leader's not the right word, mentors kind of, but just someone that can influence.
Yep.
Your level of influence on how you can influence people is something that has became more apparent to me here in the past year or so.
And don't forget the dark side of that too. I want everybody to understand that. All right. So with the other side of that, you don't want to be an enabler too. You see what I'm saying when you're speaking to these people? So when you're speaking to somebody, you want to come off of a ladder or a crutch mentality. You'll see that in my speaking engagement. With a crutch, you can hold somebody up. With a ladder, you could get them to the next level.
Exactly.
So you could become a foreman or everything like that. But guess what? It don't work unless they put the work in.
There you go.
So now you're not an enabler.
Man, you know what? And you kind of preaching to the choir there, because that's been one of my flaws, is that I'll see just because of my upbringing. You know what I mean? And anybody that's followed me for a while, I'm blessed. However, when you look from the outside, being adopted, mother giving you up for adoption, not knowing your father, being in the foster care system, your adopted mother died, all that whole scenario, people can look at that like, man, you really struggled. I don't feel like I've struggled. You know what I mean? But I do understand that there was, compared to some people, that was a lot. And, I tend to see someone's potential way before they do.
Yep, that's our gift.
You know what I mean? And it's like, man, because I see myself in them.
Yep.
Seeing that framer, that drywall person, and I'm like, man, that guy's got a talent. She's got a talent, And so you want to help, but what I found, I was more so an enabler.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it never worked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can lead a horse. I've had this saying, I've said it a few times, that analogy, you can lead a horse. Then sometimes you can try to drag a horse. You might do it, but when you get it to where it's going, there's nothing you can do to make it drink the water.
But what I did, I found out that sometimes the horse don't know he's a horse. So I told him that he was a horse first, and I didn't have to lead him at all.
Well, how does that go if you don't like? You don't like you telling me the horse. You know what I mean? You get mad at you because you told me the horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even with that phrase and a lot of things that come into this society, when you start dealing in any business, that's why my business goes into so many different levels with coaching and stuff. When you're dealing with certain people, right? What you're doing is the pain in you dealing with the pain in others. So your pain become a weakness. So the weakness in you dealing with the weakness in others. When you have a strength, the strength in you won't deal with the weakness in others. You're going to uplift them. You're going to put them to another level, but not at the detriment of yourself, because you was there once. And the best thing for you to do is to keep showing them strength and understanding. You understand? So when you come in on that level, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Because your spirit is different.
Yeah.
And they're going to stand upright.
Yeah. So talk to us about Southern CC Inc.
Yeah, Southern CC Inc. is a nonprofit organization. Started it in 2015. It was a vision of mine when I got injured in Afghanistan. I came back, and I just wanted to give back to the veteran community because I got kicked out of the military basically for my injuries. And then it was just like the military, it enhanced my life and changed my life, because I was a troubled kid, from assaults, attempted murder, a whole bunch of stuff I did when I was younger. When I got into the military, it was like a structure I needed. So I got all the way up to third group, and being in that group, it showed me how to be a man in certain aspects. General Sean Mulholland, he took me under his wing, and then took me to a whole nother level, about leadership. It was like, and I was a specialist at the time. He used to call me the specialist. So my way of thinking, and with his guidance, same thing. He always said he saw me and him. So he just taught me so much. And then when I came into the construction world, to the building up the community world, I noticed it wasn't that it was a bad community. It was more of pain in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, we had kids out there that was touching their ribs, and I always said that if my contract says foreign and domestic, if I go to the middle of Afghanistan and liberate people, why I can't do it in my own hood? What is this? Do not go areas. So I started getting that passion and started seeing that, you know how you going to bring somebody food, but you see another child on the road that needs water, and then another child that needs jacket. Now you have to take a look back and be like, instead of me turning back, let me see the whole big picture. So, and that's where the difference, I say, where humanity came in, the philanthropist came in at, because humanity is like, you giving out food to people. Philanthropist was more like, why are you hungry? So I changed my trajectory and started like, okay, I gotta see why these people are hungry. And then my mentality, my eyes opened up, and I was like, I have to build a nonprofit, but I have to build a community first with the nonprofit. So that's when we got into that.
What is like the frame? I'm a process driven person. So from a high level, what does that framework look like? Because I found one of the most difficult things, if not the most difficult thing that you can seek to try to do, is try to change someone's way of thinking.
You don't.
You know, so it's like when you see certain environments like that, you know, there's always, you know, different contributing factors. And I look at it in my neighborhood. You know, I still live in the same neighborhood I grew up in, and I see some of the
That's how you
same
change
things.
it.
You know, and I want to be that example. You know, and it's like you can do all of that. You can lay out the blueprint and all that, but the people have to want it. Sometimes, like you said, horse might not know it's a horse, and so you know there's still things that we could do that probably we haven't. But is there a framework, like when you go to do something like that and you see a neighborhood and you start asking those type of questions, what does that framework look like to go from, okay, you know, you're starting here and you're seeing this person here, you know, you're going to carry someone food, but you see someone needing water, someone needing clothes, and you start going on that journey to change that community. What is the framework for doing that?
Empowerment. Once you get into a community, right, they have to see that it's coming from a good place. So you have to be with one of them. So when you win the hearts and the mind, sometimes you got to live in that community, but you got to bring yourself to their level, you know, not level as in way of thinking or anything like that. You got to meet the people where they are. So it was times I slept in Bonnie Doe, you know, and talked to the kids that was running away. We sleeping in the street or sleeping in an abandoned house talking, you know, and I'm buying the property, which is on Gavin Street, and they're starting to build that. But that relationship that they have with you is all about the people that are the 5%. A lot of people worry about the 95%. It's not for you to worry about that. It's for you to save that 5%, because at the end of the day, that 5% can turn into 25% really quick, because now you have somebody at 12 that's going to be loyal to you for the next 20 years. Some people are old and stuck in their ways. You can't.
Well, it's kind of like, it sounds to me like, you know, you're it's a different form of investing. It's a, you know, and the reason why that spoke to me, because you're saying all that, and I always use the analogy sometimes when I talk with people that I've had some people to invest in me, you know, being a foster child, and you know, I ain't gonna say I was too rough, but I was in, you know, Robeson County. You know, everybody knows about Bonnie Doon and the history. Everybody knows about Robeson County, and you know, I grew up in the middle of some pretty crazy situations and all that. But it did take some people, you know, pulling me to the side and saying, you know, hey, you're different.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You know, that ain't who you really are. You know, even though you don't have a mom, even though you don't have a dad, you know, when you're going to have kids one day of your own, you're going to be a great father. You're going to be a great husband. You're going to be a blessing to many. And it's just, it always amazes me to where I often wondered if the person that said that, I know they felt it, but could they visualize that even then? Because, you know, I could have went left or right at any moment.
But the difference is they showed you love in a different comprehension. It's called time. That's how kids spell love, Time. You know, a lot of people, they just give them a laptop. You know what I'm saying here? But kids going to know, just like your son or daughter. You don't even got to, you could be in a poker face, and they'll come up to you and be like, hey, daddy, what's wrong? You ain't say nothing. That's how they feel that. So when you understand the spiritual side of education and knowledge and wisdom and understanding, they pick it up right away and they learn.
And, thinking on, whenever I think on that, I always go back and be like, I cannot count on my hands and feet how many times I've had to go back, and that's the thing that saved me. The fact that someone that I loved and trusted and I knew had my best interests at heart told me that I was going to do this and be that.
Yep.
And in those pivotal moments when I was like, just feeling like giving up or
When
quitting.
did you see yourself? You see what I'm saying? They
Yeah,
saw you,
they
but when
saw-
did you see
yeah,
yourself? That's the when it count. And when you see yourself,
Yeah.
that's it.
And so, it just amazed me. So how powerful is that? Just the fact that someone took the time to do that and say that to you, and that alone was really the only reason why that you are what the world sees now.
And
And you could have went anyway.
And you know what's the crazy part? They're not even your family. They're not in your bloodline. They're not your complexion. Sometimes it could be somebody out of your race to do this.
Yep.
And that's why I go by like-minded, not like-skinned.
Yeah. I like that. That's facts. Yeah. So what would you say is the highlight of everything that you've accomplished and you've done so far?
When a parent call me crying and say, thank you, you changed my child from going to jail. Or I might not be the one to make you a millionaire, but at the end of the day, I stopped your legacy of families going to jail. So now when this person stopped going to jail, the son goes to college.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So we have to look at certain things for what it's worth, but be honored that it could be worse. You see what I'm saying? So even though I didn't make you a millionaire and you're making $15 an hour, or you're just starting out your life all over again, guess what? Your child's going to college because he's at home with his father.
Yeah.
Putting fathers back in home, putting families back together, showing a child that there's more out there than your corner, and doing it and just seeing the life just gets right back into them. So it just makes me energy. It gives me so much energy.
How much of what you do from your perspective is tied to teaching folks proper communication skills? Because everything you're saying,
110%. Because it's
yeah.
both. It's both. It's not even like it's an age category with this. I have to teach somebody who's 70 to get out their ways. Like, don't use the typewriter no more. It's crazy. Like, it's not just the youth. It's sometimes my biggest problem is the elders. It's not even the youth. The youth want to be led. It's just, it's so much a big of an age gap. It's like, I noticed down here, is from the 25 to the 35, it's gone. I don't know nobody in that age group.
Wow.
And it's like, I'm in that age group, even though I'm 45, I'm in that age group where I'm mentoring 25-year-olds to be leaders on 16-year-olds. And I'm trying to look for somebody in the 26 to 35 category. There's nobody there. So I can see why they are the way they are, because that generation is gone.
There's gaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you think, what's the solution to this construction? I'm bridging the gap here between what you just said and construction trade. What do you think is the ideal solution to bridge the gap?
FTC did one part of it was get trade programs and get them paid for, so people go to school. But where I feel like we're failing at is actually attacking the high schools, because kids, they creative. I would say even like me, I became a surveyor, right? I went and got my surveying degree from civil engineer from Fayetteville Tech, and what's crazy about it, you got to take 3 years to be underneath somebody. To become an actual surveyor or something like that. You got to get them hours. You know how hard is that when you got to travel 2 hours or an hour? It's hard to be underneath somebody locally, because they have certain parameters. So even in that industry, we got to understand there's a lot of red tape to the construction industry. Right. So if we can try to get a coalition to teach these kids at 14, 15, and 13 and pay them a little $200-$300 a week, they'll be happy with that. Because you're building that synergy, that relationship, and they're getting paid to do something good. When I was in co-op in New York, that little $100 a week, because it was like $4.25 then. I'm born in the 70s. It was like $4.25, $4 an hour then. That little $100 a week meant everything to me because I worked for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't given to me. And then my mother needed help with the bills of food. I could take my whole family out of food because it was dollar McDonald's, stuff like that. I'm bringing food home for my family. So if we can get that type of coalition going between the homeowner association and everybody coming together and just reaching out to these kids, saying that you care, we could take over.
Yeah, nice. What's the Black Point Battle Royale? Talk
Oh
to me
yeah,
about that.
definitely. Black Point Battle Royale. It's a group of us veterans and active duty soldiers. We all got together and decided to bring our own gaming studio
Mm,
because we was not say tired. We just didn't understand how everybody using our likenesses, but not giving us back to the community.
mm,
So I found out, being one of the only African American veteran gaming studios that's in existence. So we purchased a block, which is Cumberland Street.
okay.
Got the building plans for that. I think I send you that, and we trying to build out that. And what's good about it, I didn't know it was a $300 billion industry, and we only 3% in it. So we got a lot of incentives that we can go into it. But the transition with that, with the same thing, is getting funding.
Mm,
Getting $20 million and changing a kid and teaching them how to do, I would say, coding
right.
from home. So now they ain't got to worry about being a sports player, construction player. They have another option because we got techie people now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to tech. I don't care what you say. Like kids are learning on iPads in school now. They
Right.
start getting rid of
Right.
books. So now if we could teach them instead of playing video games how to code their own video game, do their own voiceovers and different things like that, they'll learn with the left side of their brain, and crime will definitely drop at that point as well.
Nice.
So working with a few people out here to take that to the next level.
Yeah. So what's the end game? Like, what's the ultimate goal with that? With the Black Point Battle Royale?
The ultimate goal is to have a safe haven. Part of the battle pass that's there is suicide prevention. We also partner with domestic violence survivors, and we're making battle passes for them for domestic violence to donate back because we want to empower women too into the game because a lot of these games don't have women empowerment. So we got with female rangers and different things like that for empowerment, and young ladies, of course. Another version of what we want to do is autism type game for people under the spectrum and empower our superheroes, because I always call autistic community our superheroes, and do that. But just to build a community, and saying that, hey, listen, you don't have to be, the world most famous, and being a nerd is cool. Like I like being a nerd, you know what I'm saying? Like we want to make everything cool again. When I was younger, they had a movie. I don't know if y'all saw it, Revenge of the Nerds. That was one of my favorite movies. So it's
I
like,
hadn't seen that.
you got to see it,
I
man.
gotta check
It's
it
like,
out.
it's good. It's good. Revenge of the Nerds. So it's a lot of talent that we got in this community with just so much division, and unity will be our best option to stop a lot of this stuff.
Nice. So what's talk to us about? I see you met with the mayor here recently.
Yeah.
And so what was that about? How'd that go?
Oh, that went excellent. This is the first time, I don't like using the word gangs, but we set history. Like all the different gang groups came together, and the mayor sat with them, and I give him kudos and I honor him for that. And they came to him and said, we want the crime to stop too. We want the shootings to stop. But it's a lot of discrepancies because at the end of the day, a lot of these kids' stomach is touching their ribs.
Yeah.
So we can't even control them at that point, because how are we going to tell somebody who's 13, who got 3 or 4 little brothers, and their mother's substance abuse or something like that, and he got to take care of his 3 or 4 little brothers? How are we going to tell him not to do what he's doing? It's a lot of pain out there that's unknown, that's not known, and we can't pray it away.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of people try to do, is pray the problem away, which those kids ain't trying to hear none of that. They hungry,
Right.
and they want to get out their situation. And he sat there and he listened, he understood, and he called me the other day, said, thank you for doing this. I didn't know, and I want to work and make things happen. So now we are starting to get more engaged in the community. We're starting to change some things around. We're holding people accountable. I had a couple of young men that say, hey, listen, I know I got a warrant. Can you come with me downtown so I could turn myself in and clean up my warrant? Perfect, brother. I'm there for you. We're not going to leave you behind. What else do you need? I have situations where we running out of food, because now these kids at home, the food stamps went down, and then they only eat when they in school. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of pain and a lot of things that's going on that we need to bring to attention and understand it from their point of view.
Yeah.
But like I told my guys and told the men in there, if we do this, you got to register the vote. You got to do jury duty. You got to, what I'm saying? So I'm getting them to get involved more in the community. You got to come to city council meetings with me, and see these people at work, at their job. They don't understand the big picture of that, but at least we're just showing them we showing up to their job.
Right. What's the success story look like? Like someone like you're reaching out to, like they had this that could have went left or was going left, and But all of a sudden, through you guys' effort or through your actions and all that, tell us about a story like that.
One of our success stories, I'm gonna post that too. It's the guy named Larry D. He was in and out of prison all his life. He told me on air, he's like, I said, how long you been out of prison? He said, for 2 years. And I'm like, that's the longest time. He said, yeah, I've been in the system since I was a kid.
Mm.
And now that I'm out the system, I've been the freest I ever been. I have people calling me to do floors. I have people home, like he was so excited. He said, I get to see my son and I get to raise him now. And that's all because of what you've done. You know, now he's looking for contracts and stuff. And what's good about him and what I like about it, my greatest success is when he reached out back to the community and now he hired the kids from the community that's troubled and he works underneath them. But it's just hard getting him floor contracts because, you know, getting him to that level of sustainability and people using his past against them. That's the hard part.
Yeah. Now, is there some type of program like, you know, 'cause my mind went to like we're doing government contracts and there's roadblocks, like, you know, someone who's got a felony, for example,
Exactly.
getting on base. But, you know, so like, what is that? What is that blueprint to take someone that has that troubled past, but has a natural inclination for masonry or concrete or electrical or plumbing? They're coming out of the system because I imagine that could be so defeating when you're wanting to do the right thing, you're trying to do the right
Tell
thing, and
me
then you're
about it.
getting out, and you know now the system that's trying to supposedly rehabilitate you or trying to get you to keep from living that lifestyle that you felt you was forced to live to provide for your family, and you're wanting to do the right thing, but it's almost like you can't. You know, I can see that perspective.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For a brief window, I was kind of in a similar situation where, you know, you're sitting there looking at your options, and it's almost like, well, there ain't an option. What are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I want to do the right thing, but the right thing, there's red tape there. I can't do that. Like, how have you overcome some of those challenges, or have you been able to overcome some of them for these folks?
With businesses like yourself and other people, when they get like house jobs and they do finishing, I tell them, hey, listen, there's construction going on every day. You know, to have this story and branding by your side and using this to save lives and give back to the community, that's where the MISS acronym coming at. You know, I might not be able to make you money, but you could impact, impress, and I could save you money on this end because now at the end of the day, you're changing a life and that will impact your company in a different way that nobody else does.
Gotcha. So it's basically finding the spots where you can help and still work within the parameters that's there.
Yeah.
And like you said, it wouldn't be a government job because the parameters won't allow it. But if we were doing a remodel,
Exactly.
a flip, a buy and flip type thing, then that might
Clean
be good.
out, moving companies. So it's just thinking outside the box, like thinking about the dark side. Like sometimes I would have to put them. I have a veteran mentorship program called Vets for Youth, right? So now I hire him as instructor, which is Be Still Vets for Youth. But now he comes in and he teaches the youth floors. But I'm the veteran that comes in as well. So you see what I'm saying? Sometimes we got to partner up with nonprofits and other companies and use the sub method. You know, the sub, of course. You got the big parent company, then you got the subs underneath, and that's how we do it. I use that method. So
it's
take
the
the
same
picture.
concept.
There we go.
Same
You see
concept.
it. Yep.
I got you. Okay, and also tell us about this meditation space. What is that about?
All right, so I got an area in off of Murchison. It's 2 acres. Instead of like I tell people, we always build housing. So I always bring in a community. You have to give enough education, finance, and faith. So a lot of people is not real. I'll say religious. I would say. So with my guys, I bring them to there and I teach them how to cry, because they have no way to express their vulnerability.
So give me an example of what that actually looks like in a framework. So how does that work?
So we do a little light run. We just made a film about it. We did a little light run down the street, and then we come in and we sit and we talk about, say, hey guys, this is a no judgment zone. So anything you're going through, let us know. You know, so I get kids that are from orphans or people getting out of orphanage. And we had stories from them getting molested when they was younger all the way to getting out of prison and just learn how to read, you know, different things like that. So when you start seeing the stories of the men next to you left and right, you start realizing that your problem ain't really a problem at this point. You understand? So a lot of guys, they turn into protectors and mentors at that point where they're more vulnerable but I look at their vulnerability as strength and be like, hey, this shoulder, you can hold the world on your shoulders, but at the end of the day, you could cry on it too.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn how to cry, I can't really help you at this point, because you got to get rid of that inner pain. That 40-year-old you got to talk to the 9-year-old you that hurt, forgive you. And then once they forgive you, it's going to remind you not to let that happen again. So you're going to remember and recover, not forgive and forget. So that's what I do at the garden. And then we sit, we meditate, and I teach them how to sit still, because everybody's always moving, but they don't know how to sit still. Yeah. So when you sit still, sometimes solitary confinement is the biggest situation that a problem somebody has.
Well, I read something like that is the most like difficult thing. You put someone. I'll tell you from my personal experience. You know, I ain't shared this with a lot of people. You just triggered a thought there, and I've told my kids this. You know, one of my things has always been, you know, being that good father, that good husband, that good provider. But the worst time in my entire life was that solitary, where there was a period of a little over a year where I was going through some things. You know, I was 17-ish, still in high school, about to graduate. I was adopted, and then, you know, as soon as I got 16, I wanted to go live with my sister, my real sister. She had already kind of had her own family going, so I went and lived with her. And within 3 or 4 months of living with her, you know, she fell victim to the same thing our lineage had with the drugs, crack. Her family broke up, and I found myself basically in an adult situation way sooner than what I was anticipating, living, you know, having the full responsibility of an adult: rent, light bill, water bill, car insurance, car payment, trying to go to school, having to work 60, 70 hours a week at Pizza Hut, trying to not do the things that my circle was doing, because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to kind of break that cycle, but I learned quick. I had to distance myself from all of that, which put me in a situation where I can recount for it. I remember at least a year where, you know, solitary confinement, I guess you could say, going home and nobody calling on you, nobody checking on you, and and all those thoughts that you deal with that silence. You know, it can drive you mad. And I remember thinking at some point in time, you know, you have all these thoughts. Oh, you thought you had family. You thought someone was going to come checking on you. You could have died, you know, 3 months ago. Nobody would even known, not even cared. And I know, you know, so I know what that's like, and the battle and the strength it takes to deal with that. But also I know it does take somebody. And, you know, even though when I had those thoughts and was thinking about that, I said, well, at least I had one person to come see me.
Yep.
At least I had one person to come check up on me.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes there, you know, but that takes a certain mental strength. And I understand everybody don't necessarily have that when they need it. And so it is important for, you know, folks like yourself, for someone to go in and, hey, you right? And what it looked like for me, it wasn't that the person came, spent time with me. It was, you know, really awkward at the time. It was just a matter of just driving by and boom, hitting the horn. I opened the door and they just wave. You good? Good. And it was my adopted sister's husband, Carl.
See?
You know, and later on though, what I realized, it was her sending him. Hey,
here we go
over there and check on that boy. Make sure he's good. You know, and eventually she's the one that told me to come live with her. No, you know, don't worry. You ain't got to worry about none of the bills. Come live with me. You know, but under one condition: you're gonna go to school. You're gonna go to college. You're gonna get a degree. Yep. But I'm so thankful for that struggle though. Yeah. Because that struggle taught me how to still be appreciative when everything. I could have been sour about the whole ordeal and been like, you know, well, hey, I'm gonna go to the dark side and I'm gonna be the best at that. You know, but the fact that I had someone to check up in on me, and then when I got that opportunity, the biggest difference with me is I knew what the opportunity was, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I ain't got to pay none of these bills. You know what I mean? I ain't got to work either. And she, you know, she's the first one to tell me, she said, I can show you, you know, you can go down to the Lumbee tribe. There's a program. As long as you keep your grades up, and if you don't have to work, you ain't got to worry about this. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to keep your grades to at least a C average. And man, I just remember like when I moved in with her and like unpacked my stuff, and I felt like I hit the lottery.
There you go. Now you understand about that community.
And you know, it's like, but ever since then, I'm been go. You know, there ain't no turning back, and there ain't no, you know, wondering what. No, it's like you've been given a freaking golden ticket, you know. And so I'm just can imagine, you know, how you must feel when I remember you saying that's probably the best feeling, and I imagine that was for my adopted mother.
Yeah,
I imagine
exactly.
that's for my sister who, she's still alive, and I'm thankful for that because she gets to see all of
All
this,
this.
you know, and just little things that you're able to do. Not that they ever did that expecting anything in return other than to see you be who they knew you
You
could be,
be.
but just being able to go in and do things for them, or like I've added on to her house. She's older. She was having to carry her clothes out to outbuilding garage where she had a washing machine and dryer. And I said no. We just I went and designed building a home and built the addition for her, and don't worry about it. I got it.
Mm,
Putting a backup generator on a home. I got it. So I relate to a lot of what you're saying, and a lot of people might not know that or know that story in depth, but I just want to tell you, appreciate what you're doing because I know I've had someone like that with me, and
mhm.
I look back on my life, and most people would look at it and say, "Well, man, you've had it tough, man. I've been blessed at every junction where I could have went the wrong way. God has always
Yep.
put
The
someone on my
universe.
path to say, hey, no, no, no. Or when the load got too heavy or felt like it got too heavy, had someone to come there and lighten it. So
Yep.
I salute you for all that you're doing, and I can just imagine the people's lives that you're changing, and so yeah, that's great. Just wanted to share that story with you.
That's
Just kind of brought that to mind, and so what's next for you? I mean, you've done all this stuff, been a veteran, entrepreneur, philanthropist, filmmaker. Out of all of that, I am curious if you had to pick one, which one would you choose?
I would choose film because I can connect bridges with the film industry. There's like you doing here with the podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm getting it's like film is like the janitor. They can get keys to any room at that point because you can market, you can teach a child, you can go to schools, you can go to politicians, of course,
Mm-hmm.
So now when I'm networking all these rooms, and I'd be like, hey, I'm in this community right here. Can you assist this community with what you have?
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit them with the MISS acronym all the time
Mm-hmm.
when I go into different communities. So being part of the dark side of success, um, it's called like I could call me the white glove, so everybody's hands won't get dirty. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we understand that part.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely united everybody through film. Film is it's like the focal point of everything. It's a lot of revenue. You could create a lot of jobs. A young lady that we had because I did it with Brandon. Matter of fact, the human trafficking survivor that I have because I do human trafficking empowerment for survivors, and it changed her life around. So if we had a young lady just doing her makeup, she could hear the story of her. Now she know how to protect herself.
Mm-hmm.
You see, different things like that will just takes you to a whole nother spiritual level
Yeah.
that you can save lives through film.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'll do the most.
Nice. Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you stopping in, talking with us, and I'll before we wrap up, I will ask: is there anything you'd like to kind of close out with, or anything you'd like to know more specifically about, Southeastern?
Yeah.
Anything that we may need to cover, but again, I do appreciate it, man. It's been, I think, one of the best episodes, and I feel like I'm kind of finding my own rhythm here, and
There
I
you
feel
go.
real comfortable with talking to you, even though it's our first time meeting. Feel like I've known you
That's how you
known
do
you
it.
for a while.
Listen, I tell people, man, like all the time, synergy and spiritual. Once you cut from that cloth, you can see a fake a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
It's you're going to relate to people, spiritual energy more than anything. And that's what I feel like when we in the room. We and you cut from the same cloth at a certain thing. You understand when I say you got to cut certain red tape. You got to do certain things. Without saying what we are actually
Right.
talking about.
Yep.
The
Yep.
people who know.
Yep.
And that's what I feel like. And I believe like after this was meant to happen at this time. Me and him been speaking for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So this was meant to happen at this time to build a better life for everybody else. So I know we're going to connect after this and to do future projects.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can follow me on all social medias, Mr. Tony U. Brown. Or you can Google me at Mr. Tony U. Brown, either way.
Awesome. So this has been another constructive conversation. Thank you guys for tuning in, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I'll end with this. Be sure to give us some insight. You've probably watched more podcasts. We'd like to get your feedback on maybe what you would want to see next and some of the different topics you may want to see us touch bases on.